Is it recording?
Yeah, we're going.
We're live? Okay,
yeah.
dope.
So yeah, man, I mean, just a little context before we get into it.
Yeah.
So basically, Jack and I just met each other.
5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago. We're in Argentina, the capital, and yeah, we're both making money online. We're both 21 years old. You know, we both connected through Twitter and kind of come from different sides of the internet.
Yes.
And so I think it's going to be cool to get, you know, your perspective on other ways to make money outside of like Amazon or
yeah. And I'm fascinated to hear like your way of making money through Amazon, FBA, and all these other ways, because I only know my side of the internet.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
No, it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
And so your last name is Moses, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you were a football player.
I was, yes, up until like last year. About a year ago today, I stopped.
Yeah. So I played soccer growing up, and like that was my life for like most of my childhood. And so I'm curious, I know you wrote a thread about kind of letting go from that.
Yeah.
And I guess like what was that process like for you, kind of like moving away from the sport?
At first it was definitely tough, like, because it's been your identity your whole life. Like, even with soccer, I'm sure, like, that's all you cared about for years, like, growing up through high school. Like, in high school, all I cared about was being a college football player. Yeah. And then I became that. And then things didn't go as planned, and I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. And I had a couple injuries, couple surgeries, and then was really contemplating, like, my next move. And I was either gonna like stay at Northwestern and keep trying to play, like climb the depth chart, but like I was at the bottom of the depth chart. Like to go on a D1 team as like a walk-on, you think like, oh, it's fine, I can play with these guys. They're fucking insane. Yeah. And so that was a big adjustment period, and especially as like a freshman and sophomore, like you're just not physically there, and especially with the injuries and stuff. So I was thinking about transferring to D3 to play quarterback. So I played quarterback in high school. Yeah. And that's when I like fell in love with the game, playing quarterback. And then I switched to play receiver in college because I was short and like I couldn't throw well enough. Sure. But then there was this third option that was kind of interesting to me, is like, what if you just gave it up? What if I just stopped? Yeah. And I started to play with that idea a lot more, and I did write a thread about this, but like I did a mushroom trip by myself and introspected like I never had before, and just basically lost my ego, realized like, damn, I can do a lot more than just play football with my life, and I decided to let it go, and I had so much clarity about that. Like, I remember, so my head coach in college, Pat Fitzgerald, like this super big buff guy, intimidating guy, I'd be nervous as shit every time I went and talked with him, and once I made this decision and decided to stop playing, like I went in there calmly, coolly, and I was just like, I'm just gonna be done. And I felt so much clarity, and then from there, it's just been this slippery slope, but yeah.
That's really interesting. I feel like for me too, there was a lot of ego attached to the game. Yeah. And I juggled with that for a while, like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Like, do I really love playing, or is there just like a lot of pride involved? Yeah. And so that's really cool that you mentioned that. Because I'm curious about trying out the mushrooms as well. Interesting. Like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so disclaimer, I'm not saying like anybody should
do it at your own risk, right?
Exactly, do your own research and everything, but I mean, kind of typical, I got super into this Joe Rogan rabbit hole and watching a bunch of these guys like Michael Pollan, other guys that just kind of advocate for this use, Tim Ferriss, even Andrew Huberman, who we might get into later.
The GOAT.
The GOAT. He talks about how his stance on psychedelics has changed completely in the past couple years. And yeah, dude, it's wild. You're able to view the world, and you're just like, your thoughts are different than you've ever had before. If you look up an image, I wish I could pull it up, but if you look up an image of like the neural pathways in your brain when you're sober versus when you're on psilocybin, like, it is 100x the different amount of connections you're making. So you're just thinking thoughts that you never had thought before. Yeah. And you're able to like zoom out from yourself and detach from your ego and see yourself like from a top-down view, from an outside view. Yep. And you realize like, damn, you're not actually that important. Like, just because you're a D1 athlete, or just because you're a soccer player, just because you're somebody who writes on Twitter, it doesn't mean you're shit. Like, you're able to detach from it and then it helps you let go. So that was huge for me.
I think that's a really important skill in general, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So it kind of just amplifies that process.
Yeah.
Would you contribute a lot of your success so far as, you know, an internet guy to that?
Success is a funny word.
Sure.
I don't feel like I've done shit on the internet. I mean, I guess for us to both be down here at 21, like making money on the internet, like there's some level of success attached to that.
Yeah.
But honestly, what it made me realize is like there's so far to go in life. Like we're just starting. We're 21. Like I have so many ideas for what I could do when I'm 30, 40, 50, and it all starts now.
Yeah.
And for us to be going our own paths, I think that's the key. Because if you go the same path as everybody else, like you're gonna get the same outcome. But like for you to be taking this risk and coming down here, like you're already creating a different future for yourself by doing that.
Yep.
Like why did you come down here in the first place? Like tell me that story.
Yeah, so I went to Costa Rica in January.
Okay.
And that was kind of the first place I decided to head out to with one of my friends who does Amazon as well. So I'm from upstate New York, so it's cold and gray and just shit weather all the time.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of success in December. Q4 is like crazy time of the year for Amazon. Like there's a lot of money to be made. And I was like, all right, I got to start the new year off fresh. Like I want to just kind of reevaluate where I'm at and kind of formulate a plan for myself moving forward, because like for the first time ever, I could essentially just go wherever I wanted. And that was really all I was ever after with this stuff, was just pure independence, no strings attached. Like I'm calling the shots, and I'd finally got to that point. And so I juggled with the idea of going to like Oregon to move with a friend, or you know, some other place inside the US. And I was like, bro, I can do this from anywhere. I'm just gonna go to Latin America. Like, why not?
Why not?
And yeah, I was down there, and I met some girl on the beach, and she was from Argentina, and was like telling me about it. And I was like, that sounds fucking amazing. Like, live for cheap, like great food, great weather. And I'd already kind of subconsciously been thinking about it. And so I've been super like procrastinating my next move. Like after Costa Rica, I went to a conference in Miami and was there for a few weeks, one-way ticket, no plans after. Ended up going to like a trade show in Las Vegas for some more like wholesale distribution stuff. And still had no plans moving forward. And then I was like, all right, well, I can either like go back home and like go stay there for a little bit and reset. But I was like, no, I gotta keep pushing the boundaries.
Yes.
And so I was like, fuck it. Bought a ticket here, got an Airbnb with like 2 days notice. And then, here we are, and kind of just learned to adapt from there. But
dude, I love that mentality. It's sick. And it's like, it's so unconventional, I feel like. But how did you get into Amazon, and like what was after high school? Did you go straight from high school to Amazon, like online stuff, or the college, was that into play?
Yeah, so we graduated the same year. Yeah. And so I went through a really rough patch when COVID started.
Okay.
Just like mentally was not in a good spot, lost a good amount of friends. Just went through a tough time. And I went into college with kind of a bad mindset, carrying some bad habits with me, like, drinking and smoking and just doing the wrong things,
Yeah.
And so I went to some school in Boston. It's called Babson. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but basically didn't enjoy my experience.
Yeah.
It was all online, and I was like, I'm wasting my time.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe something good will come out of this after 4 years, but like, why am I prolonging this process? I know I'm gonna build something for myself. There's so many opportunities out there. I just have to give myself a shot,
Yeah.
And so basically after spring semester, so I spent like a year there, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And so I was like, told my parents, like, I'm not going back. Basically was failing out. Like, I wasn't going to class. And so it would have been a bitch to kind of rebuild that back up. And I was on the soccer team and stuff too. And so I didn't.
Really?
Yeah. And so, so I didn't get to play a season that year as well.
Right.
And so I was like, this fucking blows. And so maybe that put a bad taste in my mouth, but still, it's like, I looked into the future and it was like, this is not this path isn't for me. And maybe it is for other people, but it wasn't for me. And so I basically left with no plan. I had known a little bit about the Amazon space, but basically, you know, started flipping books for 4 or 5 months and just posting stuff on Instagram and Twitter, just kind of documenting the process. It was more like a journaling thing for me than like, the goal wasn't to like monetize anything at all starting out, but I ended up making a ton of like really good connections, and the reselling community as a whole was just like super supportive. And things basically just snowballed from there. But that's kind of how I got started with this whole thing. Was it a similar process for you?
Yes, and one thing that I want to touch on is like, there's all these niche like micro communities on Twitter, because I don't even know about this Amazon like resale people on Twitter. I follow you, I think, because we're both in Argentina. That's probably how we originally connected. But like, I'm in the exact same little corner of Twitter, but just for a little bit different. Like that like kind of money Twitter, like self-improvement, ghostwriting niche. But it's crazy because once you get in these little like positive echo chambers, and like obviously there's probably some downsides to only hearing like the same stuff, but when you're in those echo chambers with people doing the same shit as you, like it motivates you to keep going. Because for me, I wouldn't have kept going with all this if I didn't make friends on that side of the internet. And I'm assuming it's the same for you.
Dude, it was everything. Like, because your immediate circle, your friends and your family, they're gonna call you crazy. Like, and that's not because they don't want you to succeed. It's just they don't understand. They can't see it.
They don't understand.
They can't see it. And so the community was, dude, everything for me.
It's necessary. That's why I'm actually here, because so my good friend Matt Mick, so he's on Twitter. He's like 25K followers. He's a really good writer. We met back in like January. So flashback to like this past December 2022. I was kind of hustling on Twitter. I had like 1,000 followers, but I was like, I want to try to make this work. Like, why not? And I spent that entire winter break door dashing and calling this dude Matt on the phone. We would just scheme for hours about like, what is our next move? And then we decided to go all in with this ghostwriting thing with Dakota Robertson. So he launched a cohort, and we decided to put basically our life savings in it. And we're like, let's do it. And so in January, I went out to San Francisco for a school program for school. And Matt was living out there at the time. And so we connected and became pretty good friends. And he was coming down here for a study abroad, I think about a month ago, mid-February. And he put the idea in my head, like, dude, like, why not just come down? And like, I was like, no, I'm gonna go finish school. Like, and then I kept playing with the idea, and I'm like, it makes sense. So he moved down here, dropped out, and then that cued me to come down here because we were both in the same spot. Like, our families kind of don't understand what we're doing. Our friends aren't doing the same thing. Our friends in college think we're stupid and crazy. But we're kind of the only two people that get what each other are doing. And so we have to surround ourselves with each other, or else we go crazy. And so that's how I ended up down here. And now he lives like a 10-minute walk from me. And pretty much we've just been like coffee shops in the morning grinding, afternoon like hit the gym / keep grinding. And then at night we just end up like still building and just constantly talking about it. And when you're with people that aren't in the same space as you, it's hard because to have a conversation, you have to have common interests. And if we have such a niche interest in like online business and like entrepreneurship, most of the people you grow up with can't relate. And so it's hard to talk about those things.
100%. I think we still, even though we're doing different things, fall under a lot of the same umbrellas. And definitely have a lot of the same viewpoints. But that is key, man. Like, I can relate. 2 of my friends, Andrew and Jimmy, were Zooming every single night. All 3 of us are still in school. It was kind of like the same time as you, maybe, I don't know, like 6 months ago. But yeah, Zooming every night talking about this shit. Like, gotta make it work. And we toyed with the idea. Like, I mean, I was already pretty set on leaving. So when I left after school in 2020, for some reason still didn't feel like fulfilled with my career with soccer, and so I went back to some state school. And played for 1 season, and then I left again.
Wait, where'd you play?
Alfred State.
In New York?
Really?
Okay.
So I got an apartment down there, played for a season. And I was like, all right, I'm done again.
You kind of had closure with it after that.
I guess.
Okay.
And so that was the goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like you got to surround yourself with people with similar goals, and you're just not going to get that support from many people in your hometown, which sucks. But
yeah, dude, I was watching Mr. Beast on Joe Rogan, like kind of a weird interview to watch, but just getting his mindset and like how obsessed he is with YouTube. So when he was like 13 through like 18, like he had a group of a couple friends that would hop on Skypes for 12 hours a day and dissect every little piece of YouTube. Like, what is the right thumbnail to use? Like, does this lighting lead to more views? Like, what about this video length versus this? And it's kind of the same as like you're hopping on Zooms with these guys every night. I'm hanging with Matt every night because to become successful at whatever you're doing, you have to be obsessed, I've realized. And I'm assuming you felt that in soccer, right?
Yeah, it was almost like an all or nothing feeling for me. Like it's hard for me to go and play like casually because I do like miss the grind, right? And but there's other ways that you can channel that.
Yeah.
And so what inspired you to like start writing? Have you always enjoyed writing?
Dude, so when I was a little kid, like 4 or 5, I used to like writing a lot. I used to write stories.
Yeah.
For recess in like elementary school, I used to write like articles about like what happened in the recess football game and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got really filtered out of the whole writing space because I got so obsessed with sports, and like the writing and sports don't really go together if you're a jock. Like you're not going to be writing.
Yeah.
But then when I stopped playing football, I went through this period of like poor mental health, I think, similar to yourself. And trying out all these new habits that I heard are good for mental health, like meditating, journaling. And I picked up this journaling habit and I started to really like it. And so last summer, I backpacked Europe with one of my best friends from high school. And that entire time, I basically documented the entire thing in my journal, and I ended up writing like 200 pages. And from there, I'm on a train from like Madrid to Paris by myself. I'm sitting like this across from a kid from Italy. And he asks me, he's like, "Are you a writer?" And I was like, "No, what the fuck?" But then I started to think about it. I was like, wait, why can't I try to become one? Right? I'm only 20 years old at the time. Like, as a football player or a soccer player, your peak is at like 20 years old or 25 if you're lucky. As a writer or as like a businessman or entrepreneur, your peak is at like 60, 70, 80. It's something you can do your whole life. And so I got the idea. I was like, I really like this. Like, why can't I try to become good at it? And so from there, I started literally just sending emails to a couple of my friends and family, just like my thoughts. And from there, I started doing it every week. One of my friends was like, "Bro, like you should write on Twitter." And I was like, fuck. And I was scared as shit to start. But then I started, and now it's like, I love it. It's literally created this new opportunity for my life that I never imagined.
Why did you start with emails?
Because I didn't know anything. Like, I didn't know any better. I was like, what is a mechanism where I could start sharing some of my writing with people? And I was like, I guess I could just start sending like email newsletters to my family. I don't know why I had that thought. It's so weird. I think at the time I was subscribed to like a couple email newsletters, like Morning Brew or like some typical like sports ones maybe. And I liked the style of like once a week, like sending somebody just some habits or tips that I thought might benefit them. And from there, it just spiraled. And it's been, like this week, I think it'll be 40 straight weeks since like I started the newsletter, and I haven't missed a week. And I don't plan on missing a week for like the next 10 years.
Right. What's your creative process like with that?
So as of right now, it's kind of always changing because my environment keeps changing. But right now.
Do you contribute a lot of, like the idea flow to constantly moving around? Like, does that help you out?
I think so. I think in order to gain new perspectives and new ideas, like you have to be doing shit in your real life. Like you're never gonna come up with cool ideas if you're sitting in your room all day, and not doing anything. So I think you have to go do shit in the real world, or even in the online world. Honestly, I think the key is like putting yourself out there. It could be in the real world, in the online world, and now. My creative process is pretty much like every Monday I'm going to sit down and write this newsletter about some topic that I thought was relevant to my life over the past week. So my newsletter for this week is about building and like how everybody needs to be building something in their life or else they feel purposeless. Like it could be your body, it could be your finances, It could be a business, it could be relationships, it doesn't matter. But you have to be building something. And so like the idea originally comes from, I wasn't building anything for like the 3 weeks prior to moving down here because I was taking a bit of a break from it all. And I felt like shit, like, because I wasn't making any progress.
Yeah.
And since I've been here now, I've been building constantly and I'm so energized. And so I was like, I think this could be a relevant topic to people, like, to make them realize, like, I have to be progressing in something to feel right.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. I feel like especially for guys, like,
yeah,
there has to be some sort of something that you're making progress towards, or else overall, like, my mood plummets. Like, like you said, I have no energy.
You have no purpose.
Right. And so outside of that, like, I feel like having some sort of higher goal and vision and purpose in mind is like super important. And I think you've talked about that a lot, which is awesome. And it's something that I definitely struggle with, is like trying to decide on what that is. And I think for everyone, it's constantly changing at times, and it's important to go back and like reevaluate that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a skill that you develop over time, and I'm sure that you got very good at that just, you know, by journaling for those 200 days. You probably got very, very good at, you know, figuring out what you really want.
Yeah. And I like the point about like your purpose changes. I think it's true. So this kind of is all based on a book called The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
No, I've heard of it. I've never read it.
I think you would like it a lot.
Yeah.
But anyways, he talks about like your purpose is like this onion that like peels off as you unlayer new parts of your purpose, or as you solve new problems.
Yeah.
So like, I think Dan Coe talks about this too, and Dan Coe is like one of the people I really look up to in the Twitter space.
Sure.
But like, your purpose is whatever problem you're trying to solve right now in your life. So like, my ultimate purpose, I don't think I can have the right perspective on it right now because I haven't solved all the little problems in my life to get me to that purpose. Yeah. So like right now, my purpose is solving my money problems and making sure that I'm good to live here. And once your money problems are solved, then it's like, okay, maybe move on to your relationship problems, maybe move on to your health and fitness problems. And then as you keep unlayering this part of your purpose, you keep discovering more and more, and then you can impact more people. But
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the journey is the destination, and kind of just focus on what's in front of you. I think that's really important.
Yeah. How about you? Like, what is your main focus right now?
I honestly can't even describe it. Like, and that's probably not a good thing, but yeah, I mean, each day is similar but different in a lot of ways. I'm not really good at scheduling out my time.
Interesting. What does a normal day look like for you right now?
Yeah, so I'll wake up at like 8 or 9. Definitely one of my Huberman one of my Huberman vices is going out and getting some sunlight. Yeah. Because dude, I mean, it works, man.
It does.
I love that shit. I love that shit.
Yeah.
Praise to Huberman, but I'll go out and get some sun, you know, have some breakfast, and then it's like, there's kind of usually like a 1 to 2 hour window where I'll either have some mate or coffee, and just kind of like, you know, schedule some tweets, or, you know, do some things for Instagram, record some videos. Yeah. And then I'll typically have, you know, like 3 or 4 sales calls in the middle of the day. And then after that, you know, just, you know, like back end Amazon stuff, placing some orders, you know, friends will call me and FaceTime me. And I love to leave like space for me to think and like implement new stuff. Yes. Because it's just always like, it's just always changing. And I don't, I mean, that's like kind of the reason why I left school. It's just like, I can't do the structure. It just doesn't work for me. Like, unless I have like a really like, I'm like 110% confident in like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this to get to where I need to be. For right now, it's just like, I'm trying to leave as much availability as I can and just execute on, you know, the stuff that's going to move the business forward and that's going to, you know, put some money in my pocket. But other than that, I'm just trying to leave myself open to new perspectives and new ideas and just kind of let things come to me. It's
interesting because like as an entrepreneur, I'm realizing like just getting into this, like the entrepreneur always has to be evolving and changing.
Yeah.
And if you don't leave yourself that time to grow, you just get caught up in the same shit every day.
Yep.
And then you never progress.
Yeah.
And the only way to progress is to leave space to think. Like, literally just think.
And I don't want to cut you off, but the only way to have that space is if you are in control of your time, your money, your location.
Yes.
And then for me, like when I was at home, I literally just felt trapped. Like, I love my parents, but it's too comfortable. Like, you get in the same routine, and it's so easy to just kind of like sit in and settle in somewhere and just be comfortable. Like, you got to keep pushing the envelope.
Totally.
But those first 6 months, like, you just got to give yourself the chance to break out of it. And then once you get there, like, I feel like I'm there right now. You're definitely there right now. It's like the whole world's in front of you. I'm almost trying to move at a pace where it's like I'm making good decisions. I'm not like rushing into anything and just kind of letting things play out the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
But like the second I feel myself getting like too comfortable, it's like, all right, I gotta switch things up. I gotta go for a run or like pick up and leave altogether.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's just like super important to the process
100%.
is like staying uncomfortable and trying that new stuff.
Dude, entrepreneurship is such a hack for growing as a person.
Yeah.
Because if you get too comfortable as an entrepreneur, you're not gonna progress, or you potentially are gonna fail.
Yeah, you're dying.
Exactly. If you're not growing, you're dying. And if you go the more conventional path, which is not, I'm not like shitting on it, but I'm assuming if people are listening to at this point, they're probably in the same mindset as us.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you go the conventional path and you like settle into the job, it literally breeds comfortability. You don't have to grow and change because what you're doing is enough.
Yep.
And then you get caught in that trap for 40 years.
It's so easy to. I mean, you wake up and like a month has passed or like 2 months has passed.
Yeah.
And I felt that happening to me when I was in school, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta fucking get out of here.
Right. And when you have other ideas, like, we think we can like hold all these different things in our mind, but you have to have like singularity of focus. Alex Hormozy talks about, like, you have to focus on one thing at a time. And for me, it was like trying to juggle like a grade on a group project, or like setting up meetings to make slides with a group project while I'm simultaneously trying to like pay rent. It's like, it doesn't make sense, right? And that's like the disconnect I had with some of my classmates is like, they're prioritizing grades and like grades on a test, grades on projects, which I get, I was right there.
Right.
But once you switch to the entrepreneur, that seems so trivial, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to pay rent. I have to eat food. Like, you're worried about an A or a B. I don't care. I need to eat.
Yeah. I think like that's a really good point you made, the juxtaposition between getting a grade and like trying to survive.
Yeah,
it's like those two things just don't intertwine.
No.
It's like your grade on the test is not going to contribute to those other areas of your life.
Yeah.
And that's what really fucking pissed me off, is like, I'm not making any real progress.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I feel like the way we are now in life, I feel like we're aging mentally at a very accelerated rate.
You have to.
And
because you're playing,
I love it.
You're competing against people that are 30, 40 now.
Yeah.
Like, you're forced to adapt and catch up. And also another thing is, like, when you're in college, you do have this safety net, and you're probably potentially still getting everything paid for.
And it's not even a real safety net. It's a society made up safety net.
Yeah.
Nothing's guaranteed with school.
Yeah.
I think it's getting less and less guaranteed.
I
you see
agree.
people in those big tech jobs getting laid off day by day. Like, having that degree doesn't guarantee you shit.
I think it's going to mean less and less as you go forward, especially in the business. Like, if you need to if you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, or something, like,
by all
obviously you need a degree.
Yeah.
But if things keep trending in the way of big corporations to more like democratized, individualistic business and one-person business and solopreneurship and lean companies with a couple employees, like, I think the degree will matter less and less, and your personal brand will matter more and more.
Dude, 100%.
And like, there's a whole theory, like, the creator economy is going to be like the new economy.
Yeah.
And nobody in the creator economy cares like about your degree necessarily. And full disclosure, I'm still technically a student. So
really?
Yeah. So I'm still technically at Northwestern, but I'm taking a gap quarter right now. Because I was like, I might as well hedge my bets, right?
Yeah.
like in case I completely fuck up and fail, it wouldn't be the worst thing to at least just go back to college for a year and graduate.
Yeah.
It was also kind of just a thing to like please my parents, to be like, okay, instead of just dropping out, I don't have to operate at these extremes, like stay in college or drop out. I can do something in between.
Right.
But these 3 months here and then the 4 months in the summer, I think are going to give me that runway to never look back. And that's why, another thing I wanted to ask you about, like, I haven't been going out or anything here very much, like at all. Like I haven't touched alcohol, weed, anything since I've been here because I'm so locked in on not having to go back to college. Like I want to take advantage of the time I have here to like grind. So have you, like, on a daily basis, like, are you just like locked in same way?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely improve my focus.
Oh yeah, we all could. Yeah.
The flip side of that coin, I don't feel as much pressure maybe as you do. Maybe I should. There are days where I do and days where I don't.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I haven't, one thing I'm glad about is I haven't smoked at all since I've been down here. I haven't gone and tried to get weed. Because, like, I don't know about you, but I just get so, like, anxious whenever I smoke, and it just, like, throws off my whole thought process. So I went to the bars once with one of my friends that's here, or that I just met him.
Yeah.
And I went to the club once, but it's like, yeah, I mean, there's no reason to go out. Sometimes I feel pressure to be like, all right, I mean, I'm here, like I gotta go like see what the city's all about.
Yeah. That's true.
But there's also the realization that, yeah, I might just be working the whole day, but I'm also paying a significant less amount of money than I would be if I was living in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just wasting your time or not getting the full experience, because one, you can always come back, and then two, like you're paying so much less money than you would be in the U.S. And so does that kind of?
Yeah, no, it's something I've been like kind of struggling with to figure out the balance, because I'm in the same way as you. Like, a lot of people from home are like, how's Buenos Aires? It must be amazing. And it's like, I haven't really experienced the city or anything yet.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of just been like focused on this other shit.
Yeah.
But I think it's something to find a balance in. Yeah, it'd be good to experience it a little bit.
Yeah, I think something that's helped me is like Sundays. I don't really take any calls on Sundays.
Yeah.
So I'll do some work, but I've been trying to leave that space open. And so 2 days ago, last Sunday, I just went for a walk around.
Yeah.
It's like I was gonna go check out the library. It's like sick. Like I've seen pictures, and there's a museum as well. It's like the National Library or something.
Oh shit. Okay.
But it's like it looks like a Minecraft fucking movie scene. It's like ridiculous. So I'm gonna go check it out at some point. But I went to go see that. It was closed. But I was just walking around the city and just like looking at all like the statues, and there was like, I bought like a custom like belt. There was like tent set up, like people selling stuff.
Right.
And so it was awesome just to like walk around and just soak it in, because there's so much stuff out there. Like when you're talking about like inspiration for writing, like you just got to go out and do stuff.
Exactly.
Like you just have to. And I think there's times to grind, and then there's times to lay your foot off the gas pedal. But I feel like if you're trying to mix the two, it just never works out.
Yeah, it's like you go through seasons in your life. I'm starting to realize.
Yeah, for sure.
I wrote about this a couple weeks ago in my newsletter, but it was like sprint, then rest. Like somebody I really look up to just as a person and entrepreneur is Naval, and he talks about like work in creative bursts and creative sprints and then deeply rest. And these couple months that I'm here, I'm viewing it as like, this is my building period, right?
Yeah.
Like this is gonna be the foundation for potentially the rest of my life, because if I create enough of a runway to continue entrepreneurship forever, like it's gonna be what I do in these 3 months.
Yeah.
And then you can use your 30s, 40s to maybe be a bit more balanced. Now, at the same time, like I do want to enjoy life too. So it's this never-ending battle of like trying to figure it out.
Bro, I think all of us in this space deal with that, especially the younger guys.
Yeah.
Because it's like you always want to be somewhere that you're not, and it's like you could always be doing something different, and And I suck at the whole like balancing stuff. I'm terrible at it. Like I don't have any of this stuff figured out.
Yeah.
But it makes a ton of sense. Like deep work and then rest. But yeah, it's just a never-ending cycle of like, oh, I need to be grinding. I need to be enjoying myself. You know, am I doing enough? And yeah, it's tough to figure out. It's just like the highs and lows of business, especially with like Amazon. One day you feel like you're on top of the world. One day you want to jump off a bridge. But like it's that's just the way it is. And so the thing that comforts me, it's like, well, where else would I rather be?
Right.
What's plan B? Go back to New York? Go back to school? Like no, exactly. It's like, yeah, there's good days, there's bad days, but at the end of the day, I'm in control. So there are no bad days.
Right.
And like, there's guys who would literally give their left nut to be sitting in these chairs.
That's very true.
And so,
do people from your college, hometown, old life, like, do they say like to you, like you're lucky or like something?
I don't really talk to anybody from like I kind of, and I'm not a big like cut ties guy, like if you disrespect me I'm never talking to you again kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's all kind of in the grand scheme of things, you know, not my vibe. But I really lost touch with pretty much everyone from high school, and same with college as well. Just because I mentally I'm just evolving at a faster pace, and I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone. No. But my priorities are much different, and my life. We talked about as an entrepreneur, if you're not growing, you're fucking dying. And so if you're not changing up your mindset and reaching for new things every single day, whether it's on a small scale or a big scale, like you have to do those things. And so most people our age they're not doing that. Like they're comfortable, you know, they're too comfortable. It's like, yeah, go play some video games today, do what I need to do for class. And I can't afford to do that stuff. So
yeah, I can't live with myself like that.
No, like so it's just like just not on the same page, right? And so I'm super picky, especially today, about like who I give the time of day. Even there's just like kind of like exchange like energy with almost.
Yes.
Because that was a big factor in like me being able to do this stuff, was like I tuned out all the negative noise. It's like I saw where this was going. I had somewhat of a plan for myself, and anything that wasn't serving me in any way, I was just like not giving it any attention.
Yeah.
And so I had to like get, and unfortunately like those people didn't fit the bill, and so I was alone for 6 months when I tried to build this stuff. And you probably were too, outside of your friend Matt.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so most people aren't willing to do that because it's extremely uncomfortable.
The first 3 months before, and I met him through Twitter.
Yeah,
but
right.
The first 3 months I remember literally from like August, start of school, to December, like I was pretty much a loner.
Yeah.
But you almost have to be, right? You have to block yourself off from the noise and the distractions. And that's the way you said, like most people are not willing to do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost like the price you have to pay to go your different path. Because if you just kept doing what everybody else was doing, you would never go this alternate way. So yeah, it's something that's tough to deal with at first, but you're able to, and I wonder if you felt this. I used to be somebody who never liked being alone. I always wanted to be in friend groups, big friend groups, parties, whatever. Sure. And now I crave like solitude. I love times when I could just like be alone for a day and just read and like watch YouTube and kind of not have to talk to anybody. I crave that.
Yeah.
But it was only after going through those couple months of it being uncomfortable to where you're finally okay with like just being with yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I did used to feel that way. I was kind of a dickhead in high school. Like I got, good grades, fucking was killing it with soccer. I'm sure you were fucking amazing with football. And so yeah, I was going to parties,
Yeah.
all that shit. And when COVID started, I was like, all right, none of this stuff really matters anymore.
Interesting.
And so I kind of broke away from that. It's just it's all depends on like really what it comes down to is just like not really caring what people think about you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I definitely started to feel more and more comfortable in my own skin as those months went by. And I think like that is super important, and like getting the stuff off the ground.
Totally.
Is like being able to just like the thoughts inside your own head.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, that's an interesting point, because there are times when like you don't like that voice in your head.
Yeah.
But once you're when you're in a good spot with it, you love it. Like I meditated for like 20 minutes this morning.
That's amazing.
And just like I wish it was longer, because I was actually enjoying the thoughts in my head.
Yeah.
Now sometimes like that doesn't happen. But
those are probably the best sessions. Like those are the ones
you have to do those. Exactly. Yeah. Naval talks about like to fully he's like, treat your thoughts as like emails in an inbox.
Okay.
And to fully filter through them all and to have an empty inbox, so you're not like constantly in your head, you have to meditate for about like 60 minutes straight for 60 straight days. And I haven't done this, but I've tried the 60-minute meditations a couple times, probably like 4 or 5 times. And that was when I made the decision to move to Argentina, just by sitting with my thoughts for that long.
Yeah.
Because you sit with your thoughts for that long, you like start holding all these arguments in your head, like, and you're counter arguing with yourself, and you're going down these rabbit holes in your mind, and you're able to like get to the bottom of things, and then you have clarity over them. And then that's how I came to this decision. And yeah, just learning to be with your thoughts, it's such an underrated like skill and behavior, I think, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no.
I don't know shit about entrepreneurship yet. I'm still early, but I'm starting to figure these things out as I go.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important to make statements like that, because for me personally, like when I talk about stuff like this or I write tweets, a lot of the time I'm just talking to myself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So absolutely, like, and I'm curious to see like if the majority of kids in university now were to do a 60-minute meditation with themselves. I feel like a lot of people are just repressing, like, just not being able to like fully accept things that aren't really going well for them.
It's super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's why everybody escapes into things like drugs, porn, video games, whatever.
Right.
And obviously we're all guilty of this. I am too.
Yeah.
But once you just confront the things and you don't escape into TikTok and you actually are just like, no, I'm going to sit there with my thoughts, like you'll learn a lot about yourself. Mm-hmm. And another thing, going way back to the psychedelics that we talked about earlier, is my friend Matt put it really succinctly. He's like, the people who have bad trips are the people that can't sit with their own thoughts for 5 minutes. Because it's like that 60-minute meditation is similar to a psychedelic experience in a way, because of the depth of thought that you're having. And so I asked one of my friends from school, because he was talking about like, I want to do mushrooms. And I'm like, why? Like, what is your real reasoning?
Right.
And it's like just to have fun, which everybody can do it how they choose, but I think that's not using it for the right way, in my opinion. And I asked him, he was like, I'm scared of having a bad trip. And I was like, let me ask you this, like, how would you feel if I asked you to stare at your wall for 5 minutes? And he's like, that would be horrible. I was like, yeah, if you can't sit with your thoughts for 5 minutes, you probably shouldn't mess with any of that stuff, because you're not comfortable with your mind.
No. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's definitely an underrated skill. I think it's very important, especially in the beginning phases. Like, that's probably step one. Yeah. And there's so many people who are like just jizzing to get to $10,000 a month business. It's like everything starts in your head.
Exactly. It's like
everything.
The only thing stopping you from making $10,000 a month is like you're not the person that can make $10,000 a month yet. You have to become that person.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting stuff.
It's 100% true. It's very true. Yeah, I think I'm definitely very, very interested in doing the psychedelic stuff. And I've already decided, like, long time ago that when I do it, it's going to be used as a tool. And when I feel like my inbox is clear, then I'll do mushrooms, and that'll open up a ton of new stuff for me.
Yeah.
And so
I think you're going into it with the right intentions. Because if you, like, the drug will give you what you're looking for, or like what you're using it for, right? If you're using it to have a fun time with your friends, like, that's fine. Like, and you can, and I have, but you can also kind of combine the two. Like, if you're with a close couple friends, and like, you're gonna have fun while you do it, but like, to be able to talk with them and just like go deeper than you ever have before, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Have you taken anything while you're down here or no?
No, not yet.
How many times have you done it?
Only twice.
Twice?
Yeah, only twice. So I'm not super deep in the space, but
yeah,
it's interesting because I grew up with these beliefs, as probably 99% of everybody did. Like, drugs equal bad, which when they're used wrong, yes, but there's so many people that I respect so much that are such proponents of psychedelic use for like therapy and trauma. Like, Tim Ferriss has donated millions of dollars to this research. Like, Andrew Huberman is now a proponent of psychedelic use. He's used it himself. Chris Williamson, a podcaster I look up to, like, talks about how it's helped his life.
He's really cool, yeah.
He's one of my favorites. So yeah, just hearing like all these people that have had these positive experiences like kind of changed my beliefs, because I was the kid who was like, I'll never try anything.
Yep.
But that's just closed-mindedness.
It is. I think there's a lot of closed-mindedness when it comes to the approach to just like making money online. That's fine. Maybe more for us, you know?
Exactly.
So,
why don't you think more people try?
It just comes down to insecurity. You know, what are my friends and family going to think? And then just the belief that it's not going to work. Like, there are a lot of people out there shelling like bad advice and programs, but there's also a really good amount of like legit people.
Yeah.
And I feel like that corner of Twitter is like going to be something special someday. Like, there's going to be a lot of guys who come out of that are going to be like...
That's exactly what I'm curious about too, because like just the amount of ambition and drive,
it's ridiculous.
It's crazy. Everybody's kind of competing too.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's healthy in a way.
Like, there has to be.
As men, we compete, like it's what we do.
Yeah.
And just to be in all this so early, and then to have the access to the knowledge and books and wisdom and podcasts of people ahead of us, like we have more access than any generation prior.
Yep.
And it's only going to get crazier. But like, you can listen to an interview of Warren Buffett, Alex Hormozy, Steve Jobs, anytime you want.
Right.
20 years ago, before the internet, you didn't have that. So it's going to be fascinating to see like the generation who's come up with all this access to knowledge and information, what we're going to do with it.
Yeah. And the thing that's really cool is like the competition inside of Twitter. It's like, who can give away the most value?
Yeah, right.
Right? And so in a way, everyone's just continually getting better and better.
Right.
And the thing that I really like about just the digital space is how everything compounds.
Yeah.
Like a video that I post today, I can go back and look on 30 years from now.
Yes.
And reflect on.
Yes.
For some reason, I just find that so cool.
Right.
And I feel like too many people don't view it that way.
Yeah. Dude, like we could watch this in 50 years and we'll be like, remember when we were 21 and we recorded this podcast in Buenos Aires after we just both dropped out of college? Like,
it's just fucking sick to think about.
It is. And like your grandkids could be watching it too.
Yeah, like what are they, like what is the internet going to look like then?
That's another topic. That's kind of some scary shit. For you with the Amazon stuff, like how would AI come into play?
Yeah, so I haven't really given that much thought. I think it definitely just helps with building systems overall. I haven't tried to give it any applications yet, but I'm sure it has a lot of implementations with writing for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Has it changed the way you view things?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think to become a good writer, you have to become a good thinker, or they kind of help each other. And so if you just... People say, like, can't AI just write threads for you? And it's like, it could, but like, it wouldn't be valuable. It wouldn't be meaningful. Like, there needs to be human stories behind there.
Yep.
And you have to know how to structure things. So Dakota Robertson puts it really well. He's like, you'll become like the in an orchestra, what is the guy who like stands at the front?
The conductor.
The conductor. So you'll become like the conductor of the writing, and you'll like piece things together. So you're like the mastermind thinker behind the writing, but you don't have to worry about like the little details of the writing. I'm sure it'd be the same as Amazon. Like,
sure,
you can get the systems all set up, but you don't have to worry about the minute details.
Yeah. I don't think it wouldn't apply for that, because a lot of the sourcing stuff is a little intricate. Like, especially with like distribution, it's a lot of relationship-based stuff if you're doing like wholesale.
Right.
So it's a little bit hard to automate that side of things. But for writing, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Kind of filling in the blanks.
It's interesting because from the outside, when you don't really know an industry, like I don't know Amazon, in my mind, it's like, can't AI just do that? And that's what people say to writers, or that's what people say to engineers or investment bankers or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you actually ask the person who's in the thing, it's like, well, yeah, it could help, but like there's these little intricacies that it can't quite do yet. Now, I don't know in 5-10 years, but
right.
Yeah, it's gonna get fucking weird, I think.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, very well could be. I'm not trying to give it too much thought, because things like that come and go. I'm sure it's gonna have significant applications in the next few years, and that things are gonna change very quickly. But I'm not giving it a ton of thought. Maybe I should be. But I think something that's interesting that you said, you have to be a good thinker to be a good writer. So for me, like, I think if you're going to have a successful career as a writer, you also have to do a lot of things right outside of writing. Whether it's like taking care of your physical health, taking care of your relationships, taking care of what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a great journey to go on in the long term.
Yeah.
And so I think that's super cool. And I loved to write a lot when I was growing up, and I love posting stuff on Twitter, and we'll see how that goes. I'm curious, and I know it's probably still early stages, and you don't have to touch on this at all, but in terms of like the optimization process, like how do you view yourself making money with the writing stuff as you move forward? Because I think a lot of people don't understand that there is money to be made, being a writer on Twitter. And so if you could kind of like give some insight on that.
Yeah, so as of right now, it's more so like client-based, service-based ghostwriting.
Yeah.
So, okay, I know how to grow a Twitter account. I can get paid to grow people's Twitter accounts.
Yeah.
But in the long run, that's probably not a sustainable thing, right? So what will sustain you in the long run is the personal brand.
Yep.
And that's why I want to build it. And then from there, the idea is like, usually when you build a business, you have to build distribution. But when you build the personal brand, you build distribution, and then you build whatever you want. So if I could grow the brand or the following to 100,000 followers, and then build an email list, and then at the bottom of that email list, I have like a digital course or digital product, and I have some ideas for that. It's still early.
Yeah.
Because I'm just getting into this, but let's take the Dan Coe model, for example. He started writing on Twitter, and then he started growing on other platforms like Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. Then he also started with his podcast, and then he also grew a YouTube channel. And then, so that's all like his top of funnel marketing content.
Yep.
So from there, people find him, and then they sign up for his email list. They sign up for Modern Mastery. They are in the middle of his funnel, and then at the bottom of his funnel, like, people become super fans because of the long form, authentic content and like the unique depth and advice he can offer.
Yep.
Then at the bottom, they'll buy his $1,000 digital economics course, or they'll buy his $150 2-hour writer course, or something like that. So the idea behind it is the writing is the mechanism to build the distribution and the audience, and then products and services and courses can come down the line.
Yep.
I don't have anything built yet.
Yeah.
But like, these are the next thoughts in my head. How about you? Is it similar ideas?
It's very, very similar.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, you broke that down very well. And I think, you made a lot of really good points. For me personally, I think it's important to not be in a rush to monetize stuff.
Yes, I agree.
And so I think it's really just about, and it comes back to a point we talked about earlier. It's like, when you're trying to make $10,000 a month, you have to become the person that's worthy of that. And so I think you're almost just building a wall of social proof.
Yeah.
And competence, but also skill sets that, when it's time and, the idea comes to you and something makes sense that you really think can provide value, then yeah, maybe drop in a little something, a course there.
Yeah.
But you have to continue to keep going, because all that stuff continues to snowball and compound. And if you're not continually to get better at whatever it is that you're good at, then you're going to have nothing to sell. So like, if you're going to try to move a course 6 months into your like journey, it's like, maybe you'll make a few sales, but it's going to flop.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing I'm not in a rush to do. But even outside of that, there's so many benefits to there's no downside to posting.
No.
Like, opens up so many doors to meet people. Wouldn't have been able to meet you without Twitter.
Yeah.
So it's like, if anyone's thinking about starting to post content, like, the time to start is right now. You don't need a camera. Like, you don't need a typewriter. Like,
you don't need shit.
Just go post a video.
If you're listening to this, you could post something.
Yeah. If you're this deep into the podcast, like, make a goddamn Twitter account already.
Exactly. But I think you hit on a good point there. Like, you don't want to sell too early, because Hormozy talks about this. Like, over time, the more value you give and the more value you provide without asking for anything, your goodwill with your audience just compounds.
Yep.
And then you just give, and they're like, oh my God, like, this guy's giving so much value. And then finally you release something and you detract a little bit of value. Dickie Bush talks about, like, you build up this goodwill and you take a little bit of a dividend. And then you build up the goodwill way more and then you take a little bit of a dividend.
Yep.
Versus you build a little bit, like, we're just starting, and then you cash out now. It's like people just see you as this guy who's money hungry, you want sales. But if you can delay that, that's huge. Now the juxtaposition is like, I need to make enough money to live, versus I want to wait to build up a ton of goodwill. So that's kind of where, like, in the short run for you, that you're making money on Amazon to live, I'm making money as a ghostwriter to live. But like, in the long run, like, the idea would be to transition to that stuff where you don't need anybody else.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just about building up that foundation. It's just a wall of undeniable social proof. Like, I did this. Go back and look at everything that I've done for the past 3 years.
Right.
Anyone can do that.
Right.
Like, it's so powerful. That documentation process is ridiculously powerful, and anyone can do it. And it's like, you talked about it, and Naval said that too. It's like, jobs, I think, are going to become more selective, like, really, like, niche little spots.
Yeah.
And so, like, start and, like, just document the process. There's no downside.
Yeah, you're hedging yourself against corporations dissolving, against layoffs. Like, I think if you're not thinking like that or trying to build something to protect yourself, like, you're at such a disadvantage, because instantly, like, your life could be taken out of your hands, or it could be taken out of your control. And that's why I love entrepreneurship route, because, like, everything you do, your success, your failure is, like, it's upon you. Like, there's nobody else holding your hand. It's a lot of pressure, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not, because, like we said, what else would we rather be doing?
Exactly, I agree.
For sure. That's crazy, man.
Good place to wrap it up, you think?
Yeah, how long have we been going?
Dude, I have no idea. What time is it? It's probably been it's been over an hour, I think.
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, let's do it.
That was good.
Yeah, dude, that was fun.
Yeah.